Welcome to Tammy's Table. I am Tammy Gaines, and I'm so happy that you decided to join us today. Um, Listen, I appreciate your time, and we're going to add high value. We always do every Monday at noon. We get down and dirty about how to build resilience in your life. Um, I wanted Tammy's Table to feel like that kitchen that we all get pulled to at a party or at a family gathering. Everybody ends up in the kitchen, and there's wisdom being exchanged and knowledge and advice being given, and it's a very casual environment. And that is what I wanted to recreate here for Tammy's Table. So we're casual, but we're value added. And we're here every Monday. We talk about everything from relationships to businesses to communities. Any area of your life where you want to build resilience, we are going to tackle that every Monday. So, with that, I want to introduce today's guest. I am over the top excited. I was like beating him with the stick to get him to come on because he is running for Congress and he's a little busy. That's like one excuse I've heard. Oh, sorry, I'm running for Congress. I'm a little busy. Um, anyway, Gian Jones, welcome.
Hey Tammy, glad I can
Uh,
make it.
a little more energy. Okay, let's see
I'm with you. I'm with you, Tammy.
so Gian, I'm gonna give like your quick bio, but the bottom line is we're gonna talk about your story, during the show today.
That's totally
So,
fine. I'm with it.
I met Gian 20 something years ago.
Yeah,
Um, we were both pursuing some entrepreneurial ventures and our paths crossed. So as it turns out, Gian has been a very successful entrepreneur in finance and in real estate, particularly commercial real estate. Um, I just love this guy. He's smart, he's funny, and I think the most interesting thing that I can say about you, G, is that you have been pursuing your dream of running, being a candidate for office, and that's happening now. So congratulations on that.
thanks. Thank you,
Um,
Tammy.
yeah, so you have a story to tell, and I'm gonna weave the story, and I might stop you every now and then because it's not just about your story, it's about the nuggets of wisdom that you can impart, to the listeners as we go through. So as
Absolutely.
people are listening, listen for the learning. Because that's when I first heard this story, I thought it was absolutely extraordinary. So, Gian, let's begin at the beginning. You were born the son of a sharecropper down south.
I was born.
No.
I was born in Far Rockaway, Queens,
All right. New York boy through and through.
through and through.
So let's talk. You started on your entrepreneurial venture. Um, I guess like out of school. Is that when you
Out of high school.
at a high school? Okay, talk to me about that.
So I graduated from Martin Luther King High School in New York City, in I think 1997. Um, and I punched around for a little bit, trying to figure it out. I knew two things, and I knew them to my core. I knew that I wanted to be wealthy, and I knew that I didn't want to be uh, employed at anyone's office or at anyone's company. Now, not being employed and becoming wealthy, there's a lot that happens in the middle right there, right?
Exactly.
So, um, but by chance, I was at a diner in Queens, ran into a relatively successful broker who just said, "Hey, man, you want to be in real estate?" And I jumped at the chance to become a sales agent and learn real estate because growing up, I had read a lot of Fortune and Forbes and Black Enterprise. And I remember that the most wealthy people in America and most of the countries became wealthy through real estate. Right now, that doesn't take away from tech and finance and other things, but going back to the 1900s, real estate was the cornerstone of wealth.
Hmm.
So I thought about that in those 3 seconds that I had, and I said, "Sure, I want to be in real estate," and that was a decision that would change my life forever. Um, I was 18 years old. Or I wasn't even, I was 17 years old. I couldn't even become licensed. And I followed this guy around for a long time. At 18, I took the license exam, Became a New York State licensed salesperson, and by 19, I was a licensed broker. Now, in New York State, 'cause this differs in various states, but in New York State, we have sales associates and we have licensed brokers or licensed associate brokers. And once you become a sales associate, it kind of means you don't really want the responsibility, or you're doing your sort of apprenticeship, right? So some people don't want to become brokers. They want to just let the broker deal with the business side of it and all the responsibilities, and they go out and do their thing. I kind of wanted to take the bull by the horns. So long story short, I became a broker and that started my career in real estate.
And my mom was a realtor. I don't know if I ever told you that.
You
So
did.
I'm familiar with that world. Um, so how long you trailed that guy around to, learn the ropes, I'm assuming. And then when did you hang out your own shingle? How much later?
So I ended up leaving that guy, not under bad terms, just out of convenience. Because I started with no car, really no infrastructure to be a realtor, like just want to make money. So I was at the age of 18, I was doing my deals by bicycle. I was literally riding a bicycle to my appointments. And
They probably thought you were super humble. Like, I like this guy. And he's
it
very
worked to my advantage. It
he
worked to
likes
my advantage
exercise.
because they thought I was hungry. That's what they thought. Because I would go in any weather, rain, like it doesn't matter. I would just be out there on my bike because I knew I needed to have a few wins to be able to buy a car, right? And I wasn't trying to get the best car; I was trying to get a car. So, but I trailed that guy around for a year before being placed at a local Remax office in Queens. And I was in that Remax office where I became very close with the broker for another year and some change. And then ultimately, somewhere in my a little after my 19th birthday, I applied for the New York State Brokers course, passed it, and passed the exam, and became a broker at 19. And from 19 until now, almost 47 years old, I've been in this business. So, uh, and I've had some great successes as well as some pitfalls along the way, life. But I don't regret any of it. I don't regret any of it.
um,
Um,
Ian, let me interrupt you for one
yeah,
sec.
go for it.
I just want to sort of lean into something you just said. At 19, you were a real estate broker. I have an 18-year-old. I can barely get her to clean her room. So what was yeah, that's another story. What was in you? What was in your makeup that drove you to, oh, like, by the way, against all odds? Like, you were young, you didn't have a car, eh, you had no experience, you probably didn't have a very big network of contacts, at
No,
19. So you were
all I had was my willingness to succeed in my hustle. That's it.
yes, that was it.
Um,
What was that driving force at 19? I know you want
I
to
think
be
I had the burning my burning desire. So I had read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich probably twice by 19. And I was able to identify the burning desire. And my burning desire was to make enough money to be, well, at 19 I wanted to be rich. At 46, rich is relative, right? But
great.
at 19, I wanted to be rich.
Mhm.
And I didn't come from a poor family, but I didn't come from a rich family either. And so uh, getting myself to a place where I wouldn't have to worry about money in life, it was important, right? Now, again, at 25 years later, you have some perspective of what that really means, right? But I haven't lost that desire. Even now at 46 years old, almost 47, I still have that burning desire to do deals. Now I've just become a deal junkie, right?
Mhm.
So, so I'll take you back to that point. So at 19, I became a broker and I finally had a car, a little $800 Chevy Malibu, bought from this little lady in the Rockaways. And that car made me a lot of money. It eventually broke down and I was able to go get a new car. But I hustled through it all. I hustled through it all. And uh you grit it out, Tammy. I had to grit it out.
But not everybody has that thing. That's why Gian, you know what I've been through in my life. And the question I get asked most often by everybody is like, how did you stay standing? How did you not fall over? So that's really the impetus for this entire
That's the question.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I locked
So,
in on my goal. I locked in on my goal, and everything else was just white noise.
mhm,
I would say now in retrospect, um, when you have a goal, when you have a goal in mind of some level of success, there's going to be little demons that try to knock you off your goal, right? That's just, I've learned that through the last 25 years of living. And it's like you say to yourself, this is my goal. And then there's some other force that says, oh, yeah, okay, let's see you get there.
mhm,
I haven't quite been able to identify that force, but I know it exists, right? And then all of this stuff starts coming at you. And it is, in my opinion, the universe's way to really test your resolve to get there, right? It's
yeah,
totally possible. It's
yeah.
totally possible, right? But how bad do you want it? And that's what it was, right? I went through tremendous failings. I was a product of a single parent household. I had not yet enrolled in college, right? So I was 19 with a little hoopty car out here to make it, right? And learning real estate along the way, right? Even just because I was a broker didn't mean I knew real estate. I was able to pass the test, right? What the broker thing gave me was it gave me freedom from being under another broker, right? So it allowed me to make all of my money. But I learned.
So, gee, I think it's so I should call you Gian because people they'll be like, who's G? Um, you mentioned a couple of things that I think are really important. Um, you mentioned having a burning desire. I think most of us forgot what we're living for. I think the majority of the population is like passionless.
Yeah.
They do the same thing every day because they thought it was a good idea yesterday. They'll do it today. They're going to do it tomorrow. Um, so I think that's a good takeaway, like for the listeners, like having fire in your belly about something, forces you to work toward it if you're passionate about it. Whatever that thing is, it could be your kids, it could be your job, it could be like you want to get rich. But the other thing, you use the word hustle a couple of times. So I know what a hustle is, but let's break that down because I think maybe people don't really understand what hustle means. So why don't you
Hustle.
talk
I
about
mean,
not the
it's
specific hustle, but talk about what hustle like
yeah,
this is what it
sure.
looks like when
Hustle
you're
is, you and I talked about this a while ago about being scrappy, right? You know, and I liked when we had that conversation because it's part of the hustle, right? You have to, you have a goal, and then the hustle, your hustle, the person's hustle kicks in to get to the goal, right? Because if everything was easy, if everything was A, then to B, then to C, if success happened in a straight line, all of us would be successful, right? We would
mm,
all have our version of whatever success is for us, right?
right.
So we know, Tammy, and I'm sure your listeners know that success or accomplishment for anything never happens in a straight line, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's where the hustle kicks in, right? That's where you get your resolve, your fortitude, your resilience to kick in and say, nah, I'm gonna get through this to get to where I want to get to. And that's again what I was saying. Like I think there's this opposing force in the universe that just says, okay, this is what you want, come get it, right? And it's going to test you, but in those tests where you grow. Sometimes in those tests there will be failure. It's where you grow. There's no growth in success. There's growth
Mhm.
only in failure, right? So I'm still hustling at 46 years old. I'm still hustling, right? But my hustle
It's
is different now. It's a grown man hustle, right? Because I now know sometimes I got a jig, sometimes I got a jag. Like but these are things you learn along the way. And life isn't as hard as it was when I was in my 20s, but there's still challenges along the way because Tammy, as you and I have spoken about, there's always another level to get to if you're living life to your fullest. There's always another level, right? And so there will become there with those additional levels comes its own challenges to say, okay, this is what it's going to take to level up, right? You hear that song, we're going to level up. But there's challenges in leveling up. Sometimes that might mean shedding some family, shedding some friends, getting new friends. being in new places, reading, going back to school. It's all different for different people. But if you're committed to the level up in your life, you'll do those things. And if you're not, you won't, and you won't level up.
Right. Um, yeah, that's fantastic. Those are great points. At the end of this, we're going to go to break in just a second. But at the end of the day, you have to decide how badly you want something. And what are you
Desire,
willing to
Tammy.
get it? What are you willing to do to get it? Like,
Yeah,
there's no room for excuses in the hustle. There's no room for this is the reason why I couldn't do it. Um, or moving your goalpost so that you
yep,
can, I just
yep,
need like another 7 months.
yep.
So yeah, those are
Well,
all
I want to
things that,
say something about that because, that's a very good point. So I think,
oh, thank you.
and you and I have done this for each other, right? Like, I think it's important when you're leveling up to have someone you can check in with to keep you accountable. You got to have
Yeah,
someone to hold you accountable because we're all human and life gets in the way, right? So you need someone to call or to someone that's going to call you and say, yeah, 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 whatever you're going through, it's irrelevant. Did you finish this thing today? Today's Monday. That's what you said,
right,
right?
exactly.
That's important. I mean, I think that's
Yeah,
absolutely critically. And if you look at any of the successful people, truly successful people in life, they all have been mentored and have now become mentors, and they all kind of say the same things. So
hmm,
I think it's important. Accountability in your hustle is also important.
yeah, good point. Hey, we're gonna go to a very quick break, and then we'll be back with Gian Jones.
I'm Gian Jones. I am a father, I am a business owner, and I'm running for Congress as Democrat for New York's 4th Congressional District. As a pro business Democrat, I believe we need leaders that understand the economy and that can move it forward in a progressive way. I will fight and advocate for families, for this community, and for business owners. On primary day, I hope to earn your vote. I'm Gian Jones, and I approve this message.
All right, all right. I'm Gian Jones, and I approve this message.
That's
This
sweet.
message of resilience and success and winning. Okay, so G, I want to fast forward you now.
Okay.
You're on your own, like you got your hustle going, you got your real estate, business up and running. And then something happened that changed your entire life. And I'm assuming your perspective on life. Why don't you take us through, give us the short version. The long version is amazing, but give us a little background and perspective so that the next questions I ask you make sense.
Yeah. So the short version, Tammy, is that in along the way of my career, I ran into a gentleman. I was also in my real estate career. I'd become a mortgage banker as well, and so I ran into a gentleman in that while being a mortgage banker who was applying for mortgage, and who subsequently was acting in bad faith and had committed massive fraud and had enrolled me in fraud unsuspecting, and that would be um an
Who came to the
amazing.
door? Hold on. Who came to the door? Take us through that.
Yeah,
Like
so
that, like what the hell? Like that moment.
so that guy was buying a condo for his then pregnant girlfriend. I was referred to him by my then broker at Remax, and so the vetting that I would have normally done was sort of relaxed because he was coming from a very well-known source. But that gentleman was a part of an international money laundering scheme that was ultimately intercepted by the United States Secret Service and maybe others. Um, and I learned very quickly how the justice system works and how it doesn't work. Um, just sort of doing my job. Go ahead, Tammy. You got a question?
Yeah, because I want to get to the
You want to
good stuff.
zoom in? I got you.
I want you to zoom in. So you find out that this guy is unseemly. Uh,
Mhm.
the Secret Service is involved. Other agencies are involved, and What happened? You said you're unsuspecting, of course. What happens next?
Yeah, he passed two counterfeit checks, um, one which cleared and one which I flagged to the banking officer. And that's where the issue comes into play, right? The one that cleared created a loss to the tune of $40,000. And I believe that I was a victim. The justice system believed otherwise,
Mhm.
because because the account, the escrow account was my account, right? So uh, at the end of the day, I was responsible for the loss to the bank.
Mhm.
Not that the bank knew I didn't take any of the money, but
Okay.
what it is.
So this
Uh,
all, and then what goes down? Like how are you implicated, and what's the result of you
yeah, so
being
I was
involved?
interviewed extensively by the Secret Service, and that was during the George Bush reelection area. And long story short, they get pulled off. I get arrested by Nassau County local police, which forces us to go back to the feds to take the case up and to get rid of the state's case. Um, because the state was going for the 25 years, and with the feds, it was a couple of months to a year. So it was really the lesser of two evils. Um,
Hmm.
and that's kind of what it is. I mean, that's but a lot of people find themselves in that situation unsuspecting. There's a lot of suspecting people too, but
Yeah.
unsuspecting, right? But that was an eye opener.
So,
And
oh, sorry.
oh, good.
I was going to ask, how long were you at the university, as they call it?
Yes, I was. I was at the I was away for 5 months in Jersey, at Fort Dix, and a term we use on paper, which means on probation for 2 years,
Hmm.
and it ended successfully in 2007, 2017, 18, I think 2019. Um, and I've been living my life since then. No big, living my life since then.
Yeah.
Rebuilding, it took 3 years,
Oh,
I think.
hold on. I'm gonna cut you because I want to go step by step
No
because it's all
problem.
really important. Um, so the name of this particular show is Unlocking the Prison of Your Mind, which is, I think, the one thing that holds most people back is themselves, not anybody else, not the environment, not your job, not your boss. It's you. So how did you? So you go to jail for 5 months. First of all, how do you get up every day without being in like total despair?
At home or at prison?
In prison, nobody cares about your home life.
Um, I had a great time in prison.
Oh my.
All right. I don't. I'm not saying that because I'm advocating anyone to go to prison, but I basically took this bag of lemons and decided to turn it to lemonade. Right. And I was in a federal camp, and so what was available to me was 400 other guys who had all kinds of experiences, who had come from every walk of life. I mean, from the local drug dealer to the corporate CEO whose company's on listed in the New York Stock Exchange, and everything in between. So for me, I joke around with my friends that I went to grad school, but it was really like going to grad school because there was so many rich experiences from people who had Ivy League degrees to people who had high school diplomas. But they were all smart and intelligent in their own way, right? And so for me, look, it was like Groundhog Day a lot of the time, but I took advantage of the people and listening to their stories and how they got here and go back to their childhood, and that was my thing with everybody. I did a lot of reading, did a lot of exercising. I got in the best shape of my life. I went in at 280, came out at 190.
Mhm.
So that was
You're
great.
svelte.
Felt.
Mhm.
I need to remember some of those lessons. And but it was a great experience because I chose to make it a great experience, right? And listen, the first couple of days, I was definitely like, what am I doing? Like, this is surreal, right?
Right.
But then you got to kick yourself in the pants and say, well, listen, it is what it is. You're here. You got to make the best of it, right? You can take from this place, or you can let it take from you.
Mhm.
And I decided to take from it.
That's amazing. Um, so what would you say? First of all, clearly you made the best out of a bad situation, which means you have good perspective and also a sense of what you can control and what you can't control.
Right.
Uh, like everything was out of your control for the most.
Everything. Every
Um, yeah. So what would you say? And we'll continue. By the way, I'm gonna have you back next week because there's so much more of your story that I want to get to. Um, but tell me, as you were, if as we sit here today, when you look back on that time of your life, what do you think are some of the key takeaways that people can embrace and put into their everyday life when it comes to resilience and when you're faced with a untenable situation? Yours was the extreme, but like I said before, most people are victim to the prison of their mind. So, what would you, as you sit here all these years later, like what are the life lessons
You
that
know, the
you?
thing that I would tell people who are facing challenges is that A, it doesn't last forever. You have to have a future perspective. You have to have a future thing you're looking forward to. You have to have a goal that you're looking forward to. Because whatever you're going through is temporary, right? Um, and B, you have to maintain a really no holds barred attitude about it, right? You can't listen. I don't really go into depression or self pity or why me, why not me?
Mhm.
You know, like this is my experience, right? I've never been that guy, and when I'm talking to people who will say, "Oh, this thing is messed up," or it's only messed up because you say it's messed up, right?
Mhm.
It's just your experience, right? So I've always had the foresight to see the future. So this is where I want to be, and this is where I'm projecting the universe to take me, right? So prison was a pit stop. And this is a little funny part about prison. You know, when I was in prison, I just imagined myself being George Clooney in Ocean's 11 or 13, like making a pit stop. And I made the best of it, right? You got to psych yourself out in the challenges that you're in so that you can get through whatever you got to do to get through, right? So for me, it was a pit stop. I made the best out of it, and then I moved forward. Now, I will tell you that the 3 years preceding, preceding the being incarcerated was challenging. Um, and when I came home, the additional 2 or 3 years, because I remember Tammy, I came home in the recession. I mean, the recession, December 2017. The world had fallen off a cliff,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
There was nobody, no one had money. There was no real estate to be done. So I think in 2018, I made $25,000. And I remember sitting back in my home, which was in foreclosure, by the way. And I said to
Mhm.
myself, how do people live on $25,000 when it's not a recession?
Mhm.
But they do it. There's
You
people,
do.
that's right. And so I started, that takes me back to my desire to start thinking about a life in public service because there were a lot of people and black and brown people who live on 25, 35, and I was floored. I floored myself because I'm like, how do you live on this? The money's gone.
Mhm.
So that was really the impetus of me starting to think about a life in public service to just I feel like if I could just do one thing a year to make life better and easier for people who had it the worst, then I would leave office as a success.
That's
Um, you can't solve all the problems, but sometimes people don't need you to solve all the problems. They need you to solve one or two problems for them, right? That one or two things can change someone's life drastically. So I
yeah.
always have kept that in the back of my mind through my own challenges, but also moving forward to help other people.
That's amazing. I am so Gian, where can let me frame this way real quick and then we're gonna wrap. You are running for Congress in the fourth
Fourth
congressional.
Congressional District in New York, which is basically all of Southern Nassau.
Okay, on Long Island for people that are other
Oh,
places.
yes, Southern
Okay.
Nassau, Long Island.
So there's a couple of things that are really interesting about your candidacy. Um, One is that, and we'll talk about this on our next show. But one is that you could potentially be the first person of color to hold that seat since 1789.
Yeah,
And you flipping the seat Democrat will have a ripple effect to our national election, which is coming up in November. Is that
it
true?
would. It would have an impact in the changing of the guard in the House of Representatives.
Yeah. So listen, the reason I bring that up is that even if you don't live in Long Island, I think that you probably feel some of the same pain that Gian is addressing among, our middle class, lower middle class. So, Gian, where can people go to donate? And it doesn't matter if it's $5 or $10,
Or
um,
$1. It
or
doesn't
worth.
even. You can go to Gian Jones for Congress. So that's Gian Jones for Congress.com, and there is a donate link. And I want to just say, Tammy, thank you in advance to all your listeners who come and donate. Because every dollar counts. The small dollar donations count. They make a big difference.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thanks for coming today. I am looking forward to continuing this conversation next Monday, same time. I want to get more into, what happened after you left prison and wanted to get into a life of service. So next week's conversation will be equally riveting.
You
So
got it, Tammy.
thanks for coming on. Thank you all for listening. I will see you back here next Monday at 12 o'clock for Tammy's Table. Have a great week.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.